Thanks for coming. This is an interesting topic in that I think it's the most exciting thing to happen to computers in years. Tablets are an absolute phenomenon, and basically we really have to take on board the fact that they're here and they're going to play a really important part in the future. What I would just like to remind you is that the tablet is actually a very new device, only 4 years old. Okay, and I should say by way of background that my background is in Windows. Okay, to be perfectly honest, until recent times I had very little to do with Apple. I always thought that they were for a particular kind of people who didn't include me. Yeah. Anyway, when the iPad came out of curiosity, I wandered into the Apple store in Sydney to have a look. It was new. Now, I don't know how you guys feel, but I always feel considerably threatened when I walk into the Apple store. Not only will I be the youngest person there, the oldest person there, but also I felt very threatened by the security guards at the door. I always feel it's going to be a bit like a nightclub. And when I walk in, I'll be stopped at the door. And I'll say, "Sorry sir, you're incorrectly attired." Or more likely, "You're far too old." Right. And I can always think of kind of getting into strange conversations, you know, "But you must let me in, I want to have a look at this." He might say to me, you know, like, "Let's see, are there any extenuating circumstances? For example, do you live in Surrey Hills?" No. Do you wear black clothing? Often. No. Do you work in the arts and entertainment industry? No. Well, I'm sorry, you're just not an Apple customer. Anyway, on this day I forced my way into the Apple store to have a look at the iPad. The iPad 1. I walked out with one under my arm. From the first moment I saw it, I could see this was going to be a revolution in computing. It was exactly the same feeling I'd had in the late 70s when I saw the first PC, then called microcomputer. At the time I worked in the mainstream computer industry with big mainframe computers like IBM's. And when I saw the first microcomputer, personal computer, I just said, "New game." And so it has turned out to be. And so it has turned out to be with the iPad. Before we go any further, how many people have iPads in this room? Okay, how many people have tablets other than iPads? Other than iPads, other so there's almost everyone's got one, and that says something. And let me tell you, we are not alone. Tablets, the iPad in particular, is the fastest adopted new technology in history. Okay? If you have a look at this orange curve, that's the growth, right, of iPad sales. Okay? Pretty spectacular. The green one is PCs, and the blue one is notebooks. Now you can see around about 2008, notebooks started knocking off sales from desktop PCs. But you can see from the introduction of the iPad that tablets have knocked off sales from both desktop PCs and notebooks. This growth has not continued up there. It's kind of leveled off last year. In fact, the reason it's leveled off is that now almost everyone owns one. We looked at the number of hands that went up in this room when I asked who had a tablet. I would say around about 80%. So when 80% of people have already bought one, it's pretty hard to sell more unless you sell them a new model, which of course is a proven tactic. But amongst seniors as a whole, the rate of adaptation is nowhere near as high as in this room. The latest figure I have for the Australian population is around 62% of Australian adults own a tablet, most of those being iPads. However, the figure for older people is nowhere near that. I've only got an American figure for 50 to 64-year-olds, and that is something like 30%. In fact, and it drops very quickly with age. This is, again, American data showing internet usage in age brackets. And as you can see, 65 up to mid-70s kind of hangs in and then kind of falls off a cliff. Okay. So there are a lot of people out there who are older, who are yet to buy an iPad or tablet, who could seriously benefit from having it. Okay? That's what they show. This is a point not lost on the makers of these tablets, who are now targeting older people as one of the subgroups that they think they can sell this product to. And I welcome that move because tablets are very valuable for older people. The interesting thing about older users is that while there are not as many people in the older age brackets who use a computer as there are for younger people, those who do use it almost as much as young people. Okay? So what does that actually tell you? What it tells you is there's a kind of technology barrier in people's minds where they say, I'm not going to have anything to do with computers. But once they get a computer, they actually become fairly serious users. The numbers are pretty interesting. Amongst older adults, 71% go online daily. 92% go online at least 5 times a week. So what that tells us is once people get onto the internet, they find it so useful that they become regular users. But the other way around, there's a whole group of people out there who have never used a computer, who are older, who actually would benefit. You just have to get them past the technology barrier. And that's really where tablets come into the game. In my view, tablets were made for older users. People, when they come out, people sell them as high-tech, newfangled. Young people have them, and indeed, it was the young people who bought them first. But as a technology, tablets are really ideally suited to older people. And we'll go on and talk about older. You know the definition of an old person? Someone 10 years or more older than me, whatever your age.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Okay. One of the great advantages to older users of a tablet is there's no mouse. Okay. Now you might say, hey, that's a disadvantage. It's not. Have you ever tried to teach an older person who has never used a mouse? Yes. Lots of yeses. I don't think I need much explanation. Yeah. The interesting thing is, for most of us in this room who have mastered using a mouse, it seems easy and intuitive. But that's because you're put in the hard yards over the years. In actual practice, it's a difficult device to learn how to use, but a powerful one once you do learn how to use it. But many older users are just not going to invest in the time to learn to use a mouse. One area of particular difficulty is double-clicking. Yes. Older people, even on the slowest double-click rates, just cannot get it. Right? And I understand it. Yeah. And, I once saw Arthur Rubinstein, the concert pianist, interviewed at 82 after just given a recital with a Beethoven late piano sonata. And they said to him, how the hell can you play those rapid trills on your little finger at that age? He said, because I could do it when I was 6 years of age. Okay. The interesting thing is, while looking at the mouse and the lack thereof, one of the things that PC users often say when they acquire a tablet or use a tablet for the first time is, but where is the mouse? They also say, where can I attach my printer? Right? Where's the USB port? Right? The point is, the tablet is not a PC. It is a mobile device. And it doesn't want to be tethered down by leads. And in fact, is designed not to be. So the PC perspective that we as PC users bring to bear when we use a tablet is in many ways a misthink. We've got to really start again. In fact, this may sound strange, but I would rather teach a person who has never used a computer to use a tablet than I would teach a person who has used a PC. Okay? Yeah. A friend of mine who trains helicopter pilots told me the same thing. He said, I'd rather train someone to drive a helicopter who has never piloted a plane, right, than one who has, because flying a helicopter is so totally different to flying a plane. One skill gets in the way of the other. And so it is with PCs and tablets. Another area where tablets have a great advantage for older users compared to PCs is there is no visible file system. Again, this is another area where PC users tear their hair out. I hate this damn iPad, they will say to you. I can't even find my files. You know what? That's a plus. File systems are a complete nuisance. They're a hangover from a previous era. In the iPad, files belong to apps that don't exist independently. Yeah, if you could hack into your iPad, you can actually see the files. They're all there, in much the same kind of places that you're used to. It's just that you can't see them. Once you get away from the idea that you have to find your files and organize your files, you get away from this nightmare. You've all seen desktops or something like that. How they find them is beyond imagination. Like folder after folder, mixed with programs, mixed with website links, just a total disaster. The iPad is basically icon driven. The files belong to an app and don't have to be separately forwarded out or accessed. Now, here's something you've probably never thought about, even if you've been using a tablet. One of the fundamental differences between a tablet and a PC is the focus moves away from a browser in a PC to the app. You say, what does that mean? Yeah, let's just consider an example. Let's say this gentleman here wants to go to the ABC iView site to watch an episode of a previous episode of a TV series he missed. On a PC, what do you have to do? You have to fire up your browser. You have to find the address of the ABC site. You've got a bookmark, in which case you've got to find the bookmark. You've got to go to the ABC website. Then you've got to find the TV section. Within the TV section, you have to find the iView section. And then maybe you can think about viewing the program that you want to watch. If you have the iView app on your tablet, what do? You tap it. It takes you straight there. There is no browser involved. Think about that. Yeah? No browser involved. And you know what? For the most part, that's very easy. It simplifies the whole process. Finally, and most importantly, there's no need for security software on an iPad. Before coming to this presentation, early this morning, I researched this topic There is no instance of an iPad becoming infected by a virus. Now, if you jailbreak your iPad, which means you hack into it so you can get access to the file system, yeah, people become infected. But for a normal, like all of us have, unjailbroken iPad, no example of a virus infection. There is no need for antivirus software. Now, one thing older people are very concerned about is computer security, and rightly so. So what a wonderful reassurance it is for an older person to say, your computer cannot be hacked. Right? It's a real plus. It means you can go to your banking site or whatever and you feel secure in the process of doing it. Of course, in the real world, nothing is ever 100% secure. And one day, some 15-year-old Romanian hacker may well hack an iPad. But we don't have to worry about that at the moment. One of the things that shouldn't be forgotten about the tablet compared to the PC is it's got a whole heap of accessibility features built in that make it easier for people with problems with their eyes, or with their hearing, or with their hands to use. These features are built in. Sure, on a PC, you can buy a whole heap of applications that will address accessibility issues. In the case of the tablets, they are built in. Not the least of these features is the ability to be able to just use your fingers to increase the size of the type. Right? And it's so goddamn simple. Right? It's not, you don't have to worry about hitting Control plus or some arcane set of keyboard features. You just get your pinky and you go like this. It's the way computers should be. I have a much older sister in her mid-80s who has developed a serious eyesight problem. She can no longer use a PC, but she uses her iPad all the time. When I see what she's watching, it's got like 5 words on the whole screen. She has it so big, but it does the job. If she didn't have that, she would no longer have access to it. Yeah, and these features are built in. I don't know if any of you use the inbuilt dictation feature. It's quite good. It's not perfect. Yeah. But again, if you have a problem with your hands, it's a 95% answer. And if you communicate with people readily, most people realise that you're dictating and will accept a 95% accuracy rate without accusing. The iPad will read text alone. Right? It's just a configuration in the settings. Again, my sister uses it a lot. It will even tell you where you are on the screen and what buttons there are to press. It's a very useful feature for people for us. Hey, we're talking about older people. None of our eyesight is 20/20. Okay? So what this means is, as we all get older, we have a particular issue with our eyes, even when we're young, you can adapt to it much more readily with an iPad than you can with a... The other thing that I'd like to draw your attention is that the voice assistant in the iPad, Siri, as she's called, has become much, much better with the release of iOS 8. What I really like about it now is, if you ask Siri a question, she very commonly, I would say 70% of the time, gives you a spoken answer. So if I say, Siri, how far is it to Melbourne? She'll say 996 kilometres. Right? Now that might seem like a minor disadvantage, but again, if you've got a disability, that's a really major thing. Yeah. Again, my sister uses that thing all the time. She uses Siri to do her searching because Siri speaks the answers. And it's got other pluses. You may not be aware that with the latest release of iOS 8, Siri now has an option that you can have her listening all the time. It only works when it's connected to the power charger, and that's so your battery wasn't flat. But if you're connected to the power charger and you're enabled Siri, she's listening all the time. All you have to do is say, hey Siri, and she'll respond. And, I just heard a wonderful example last week. Our iPad lives in the kitchen, like many do. And my wife was cooking. I was doing some work. And she clearly had a recipe where the measurements were in cups. These days we don't use cups, we use mils. She said, while she's cooking at a different counter, she said, "Hey Siri, how many mils in 2 cups?" And Siri responded, 326 mils. Right. Now,
It's wrong.
yeah.
It's wrong. But still.
I should explain. My wife is a wonderful person, but technology is not her thing. Okay? She uses the computer extensively, but has no interest in the technology that goes along with it. She's just a user. When I see my wife using something, I know it works. I know it's useful. Right? Yeah. When the iPad first came out, I remember wandering in to make my wife's tennis group some coffee. When I wandered in, I noticed that she and her tennis friends were discussing what apps they had on their iPad. You know? Yeah. And I thought, I felt like writing to Apple and saying, you guys have done it. When you can get a bunch of middle-aged ladies sitting around the kitchen table discussing what apps they have on their device, you have succeeded. I have never heard a group of such ladies discussing what utilities they run on their PC. Siri has become really, really good. If you haven't tried Siri, in recent times, do so. And in the settings, try turning on the always listening option, where she will respond to, "Hey Siri," at any time, even if the machine's in standby, she'll wake up. Yeah. Recently, I said to Siri, "Siri, I love you." She responded, "Well, we haven't really known each other that long. Siri, will you marry me?" And she said, "I'm not the marrying kind, and you should know you're not the first to ask that." You may have seen a case reported in the press where in New York, a lady was telling a story how she has a child with very severe Asperger's syndrome who has befriended Siri. You know, Asperger's kids have a lot of trouble with social relationships. Right? Well, this kid has cottoned on to Siri as his friend. Right? And he answers the kind of things that Asperger's kids are interested in. You know, it's like, you know, what is the first square root of the third prime number after 78? You know? Right. Yeah, and apparently the mother said, it's been a transformative and positive effect in this child's life. He now has a companion. Right, Siri. Another thing you've got to take into account with older people and the tablet is its portability. Right? Yeah. The fact that you can use this thing anywhere. I mean, all of you with tablets, I bet you've used the tablet in bed sometime. Okay? Yeah. Try taking your PC to bed. You can take your notebook, but it's awkward. It falls off your lap. And it's never really right. Yeah. And as I said before, the kitchen is a terrific use because these things are stain resistant. Like you can have greasy hands. You don't want to be using a keyboard with greasy hands. In the car, they're phenomenal. Finally, tablets do things that most older people are interested in and do them well. It's pretty explanatory list, but I'll just talk about ebooks for a while. You can get a free Kindle app. You can download Kindle ebooks with ease. Apple sell their own ebooks. You can read PDF format ebooks with ease. But reading an ebook on an iPad is a different experience to reading it on a Kindle. That's because Kindle uses electronic ink, which it's based on reflected light, like real ink on a book page, whereas an iPad generates the light. It's got LEDs. As a result, the iPad display is much brighter. If you have bad eyesight, the brighter display is a blessing. If you have really good eyesight, the brighter display is not a blessing. It can be very glaring. But once again, as we're talking about old people, very common thing. Can you use your iPad to replace your PC? I'm going to give you the economist answer. Yes and no. If you do a relatively restricted range of things on your PC, then you can do all of those on an iPad with ease. By that I mean email, surfing the web, watching YouTube videos, that kind of
solitaire.
playing solitaire. You can do all those things with great facility on an iPad. No problem at all. However, if you wanted to create new content, like writing a book, writing a family history, doing a family tree, doing a complicated spreadsheet in Excel, all of a sudden the limitations of the format become a problem. Yeah. Not the least of which is your pinkies. The mouse is a much more accurate device than the metric pinky. Right? It's very hard to get accuracy with your finger, of the kind that you can get with a mouse. So my advice to people who ask me this question is always the same. If you're in that category, no problem at all. Otherwise here. On my last trip overseas, I decided not to take my MacBook with me. I was going to try and survive totally on the iPad. I did. Now I do very technical work on my MacBook, and I was able to find programs that allow me to do all that work on an iPad. It worked okay, but I have to tell you, I was much less efficient in doing it. It took me like twice as long to do stuff that I could do with much greater ease. And I was pretty happy to get home and get back to the MacBook. Okay? But can you do it? The answer is yes. It's just less efficient. If you're not time constrained, or you're not subject to frustration, then you won't have a problem. But otherwise, there is an issue. Okay. Here's a tip I learned from that trip. This is the biggest productivity aid that you can ever add to your iPad. They transform the device. You know, when I was going to go overseas without a laptop for the first time in 25 years or more, yeah, I got nervous. Yeah. I'm going cold turkey for that. And so, on some advice, I bought a keyboard case for my iPad, and having used it, it's a transformation. But, the interesting thing is, when I bought it, my wife said, well, wasted time. When we got home, I said, now we're home, darling, will I take the keyboard case off the iPad? No. She's a touch typist, and that transforms the experience for her. The great advantage of one of these keyboard cases is they have arrow keys, which means you can negotiate your way around the screen. If you ever tried selecting text in an iPad, you know it's a pain in the butt. Right? With this, it's actually quite doable. Yeah? And I quite often write course notes for other courses I do, using Word on the iPad, using the keyboard case. Works just fine. Can the tablet serve as your first or only computer? The answer unequivocally is yes. And it's for the same reasons we talked about before, subject to the same series of exceptions. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the iPad and what it has to offer in particular for seniors. And it's a pretty powerful combination. And I'm going to end today by just telling you a little story. We've had for the last 25 years a guy come and do our garden for half a day with us. He's now 75. Every year, come Christmas, as a measure of gratitude, my wife and I do something for him. Typically, we'll send he and his wife away for a holiday weekend or something. Last year, I gave this guy a tablet, a Nexus 7 from Google. This guy had never used a computer in his life and was anti-computer. Right? He had no internet in his house, so I bought the SIM card with some capacity on it so he could connect to the 4G network without having to have a router in his house. The long and short of it is, 10 months later, this machine has transformed his life. He now emails his grandchildren around the world regularly. He has Skype sessions. He's a man of, although of little education, he's a man of high curiosity, and he's found a whole world out there that's available to him via the internet. And that was possible because of a tablet. Had I given him a PC, it would have been lying unused in the corner today. So the message there is clear. So everyone in this room is already a user, you see the potential. What I'm saying to you here is a kind of community message for people you know who are older, who don't have any computer knowledge or access to the internet. Try and get them onto there using a tablet. It's an easy road, and you may well find that for those people the experience is transformative. So there you are. Tablets, best computer ever for computers. Thank you.